What's going on, Rick?
Not much, man. Another day in
Nothing
paradise
much,
here
huh?
in San Antonio.
Very nice, very nice. Any good twisters or sideways rain this week?
Yeah, like last night it was like torrential downpour again, and today it's 80 and beautiful out. So shit just keeps rolling by.
Sounds like Texas. Well, anyway, I am K Fresh Kevin Fulton. With me, as always, my main man, the Cuban crippler, Ricky Reyes, and this is Podfluxxx, episode 4. Hey, Rick, we got some feedback on last week's episode. Did you get any? Because I did.
I didn't get too much. No. What? How bad do we suck according to people?
Well,
Is it
no,
more than
nobody
usual?
nobody really said that we suck, but you put the call out there, and I got a couple of direct messages of people with it was a couple of
Questions?
the same questions about Lucha Underground.
All right. Cool.
So I figure maybe we'll start with some, current bullshit, and then we'll work our way to that a little later.
Yes, and there was a lot of current bullshit as
There
usual.
is so much current bullshit.
Why is it so bad now? Why?
I think a lot of people that are job scared. They're afraid to say no to certain things. A lot of people are on television because they know the right people. And I also think that the people in charge don't have a sane, clear thought or a coherent plan from week to week to week.
It's so
That's what I
bad.
think the problem is. What do you think it is? It's
I
terrible.
think it's basically that. But what I mean is as independent wrestlers, like when you start traveling around and you're getting out there, you're basically doing cold matches every week. You know, you can be hyped up on an independent show for up to like 6 to 8 weeks sometimes, if you're an outside talent coming in
Hmm.
and you're coming in to a cold match. There might be a face that you're wrestling or a heel, um, but you have to learn to tell that story in that 10 to 15-minute range to get the crowd to care about you and your opponent, you know, at a main event level, like kind of work them up to a frenzy. And you would think that the independent wrestlers going on TV would understand that and learn to you know, uh, instead of doing like a longer match, like understand how to put that from a 10-minute match down to a 6 and
And
still
get
have a
themselves over.
yeah, and still have a decent match where you can get yourself and your opponent over with having like quality like why can't they just do that? Or is it that there's such marks for being on TV that they think they have to do all the things in the time that they're giving, thinking that that's what's going to impress somebody, when in reality the main event guys on these TV shows do all the things better than you and have more time to do them.
I think a lot of guys equate going long with getting over.
Right.
They don't think they can get over in 7 minutes,
Right.
8 minutes. They got to go 15 to 20 so everybody can see all of their stuff so they can get over. But I mean, I still like with VPW when I'm talking to guys, like I still try to stress, like, because I don't like to make it a bunch of cold matches. I like to try and have somewhat of a semblance of a story or something, for everyone. You can't have something great for everyone, but you can have something for everyone. So I try to say, listen, if you're just starting out with this one guy, this is your first match, save something for later. Save
Right.
something for the match after that. That way, when this thing finally blows up and you're gonna blow it off, you've got a bunch of stuff that the people haven't all seen you guys do to each other, and the last match of the program can be a big one. But I
Yeah,
don't think a lot of people subscribe to that anymore.
yeah, I feel like they get on TV and they think they got to put 12 to 15 minutes worth of shit in an 8-pound bag,
Yeah.
and think like, well, if I get all this cool stuff in, then I'll make some waves, or somebody will like me and book me again. I don't know. It's fucking awful. Like, it's just the TV stuff. It's like, and I don't watch regularly,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't have to. I just whatever is bad is going to be on Twitter,
Yeah.
and the memes to follow what amuses me. So I'll see like an awful clip, and I just think to myself like what a wasted opportunity to have another promotion with some pretty deep pockets, multiple TV shows on the network. Therefore, there's more opportunity for guys and girls to get that exposure and get paid and get noticed. And it's like every time you see something, somebody new or something hyped up, it never lives up to the hype. All the matches look like a monkey fucking a football, and the crowd, like, you can see and feel the energy from the crowd, like, being let down from a lot of these matches.
Right.
It's like when I see a clip of somebody's stuff, I don't really, I don't need to watch the dosey doing around, that they're watching. I'm watching the fans. Like, are the fans even acknowledging what's happening?
Right.
Like, I saw one AEW clip, random girl A against random girl 2, and this girl did literally like a square dance dosey do thing to like shoot the person off. Like, they did a whole sequence of hooks and twirls and tilts and whatever the fucks. And I'm like, where is this going? And then it was like, she shot her
Irish
off.
whip.
I was like, that was a lot of work for a shoot off. I remember specifically when Austin Aries was doing commentary on 205 Live. I don't know if you ever watched it then.
A little bit.
So they had a Grand Metalik came in from the tournament that they had. It was like their first year, right?
Yeah.
So Grand Metalik does, amazing stuff, right? Like, he's the innovator of like walking on the rope, and like, he does it effortlessly. Not Commander guy where he takes 10 minutes, take a deep breath, and then hustles across. Like, this guy really does it well.
Right.
And I remember Aries was on commentary, and he did the grab the palm of the hand, run up the ropes, flip, bounce, twirl, jump, backflip, and gave like Drew Gulak like an arm drag, and Aries hits the old. That was a lot of work for an arm drag. like I lost my shit, because I'm like, I don't know if anyone other than wrestlers were like, yeah, he's right. Like, that was totally unnecessary.
Do you remember? I don't remember who it was, but some guy was in the locker room and he was calling his match, and he was like, "Oh, we'll go from an arm wringer to a hammer lock, and I'll switch around to a headlock, and then you shoot me off, and I'll baseball slide, and then I'll duck one, and then you give me the arm drag." And you were like, "Why not just do an arm drag?"
I remember a couple of situations like that, but yes, I want to say was it Dumb Shit Flames, maybe somebody like that, or who's the other guy that was as boring as watching paint dry? Santino, not Santino. Fuck, he was like a Rod's guy. He was a bigger guy.
Santy?
Yeah, Santy. It may have been him. We all liked him. And then the bell rang.
Right.
And then we wanted him to go away. So
he had some No, man, he had some good stuff. It was just he was like, and I'm friendly with him. We text every once in a while, but he was just like, I remember like when the microphone came in his hand, or when it was time for him to like look at the people and like
Mm.
fire up, it was just like charisma vacuum.
That's what I mean. Like he wasn't a bad wrestler. I wrestled him like 2 or 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
and he was one of those matches like safe, easy. We're gonna get through. But he's a guy that's like a good example of like I would rather watch him on AEW Dark or in a job match situation because he doesn't do anything and he's not going to try to do anything.
Right, and he
You
could
know,
sell.
he's so vanilla that he might hit what his power slam and his spine buster were like his big and was great because he was a bigger dude.
Yeah.
So those are money moves, like we all like smaller guys. That's what we like taking. And I always had great matches with them, but I remember, yeah, that was the big problem was he just couldn't connect. Like
My
he was firing up because he was told to. He wasn't
right.
firing up because he could feel the momentum changing and hook the people with that emotion. He just did it because I told him in the back, like, oh, when we do this move, get the people. I didn't break down exactly how because I figured he would like fire up and like stand up but no, he just goes, come on, and I'm like, fuck, like
That was
here we
my
go.
thing.
What?
That was my thing.
Yeah, it was. You know it.
My last match actually was against Santi, and in his opening shine, I took a Hurricane Rana from him, and my
Mm,
arm like got stuck in his legs.
yeah,
So when I took the flip bump, I separated my shoulder,
of course you did.
and of course, and then I was like, dude, my shoulder's completely out. And he was like, all right. And we just went a few more minutes, but he took good care of me. And then
Yeah.
I came home and couldn't pick up my daughter and said, all right,
Yep.
that's enough.
Yeah, that's a wrap.
I'm good here. So anyway, but moving on, you're talking about shitty clips. Do you want to talk about the shitty clip that you sent me today?
Yes, yes. Why?
Well,
Why?
let me catch everybody up here. There is a clip on Twitter of the
It's
finish.
AEW's actual Twitter handle that sent it out.
Yeah, before we go any further,
All right.
they find the worst fucking camera angles for
Yeah.
bad shit that happened, and they're like, tweet this, which is, but like, it's from the TBS title match with Jane Cargill and did I say Jade Cargill?
Sure.
And Taya Valkyrie. And it looks like Taya Valkyrie was going for Jade's finish. And
Is that what that
then,
was?
yeah, because she does
Okay.
the, some people call it the Glam Slam, some people call it the Fresh Maker, no big deal.
The same people, right? I got it.
Right. And I think the stipulation for the match was that Taya Valkyrie wasn't allowed to use it. So that's why she picked her up, and the referee was like, mm-mm-mm. And then she set her down, and then she did that horrendous roll through, and it just
Yeah, well, she didn't do the roll through right
right.
because she doesn't know what she's doing, and then Taya because she knows the spots basically just
Did a
tiger
forward
rolled
roll.
in between her legs for her before there was ever any momentum to go forward because she knew that was the spot.
Right.
Okay, so that explains a little bit more then, but I don't. Here's the thing. I assume Taya was supposed to be the baby face.
Yes.
So wouldn't it make sense, or how does it make sense for the baby face to attempt a banded move?
Right.
Then just put her down and stand there and just kind of throw her hands up to her side and go, yeah, I tried it.
You know what? Like if you're thinking about if you think about it like this, say it was Taya's actual finish, right?
Okay.
And out of instinct, she goes to grab her finish, and then it's like, oh, I'm not supposed to do that. Just out of second nature. I'm gonna put this almost think about like Kaufman and Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler. Jerry
Right.
Lawler knew he wasn't supposed to use the pile driver,
Right.
but he did it anyway. Now, if they would have done something where she hooked her up for it and was like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to do this," and then something different happened, and then Jade Cargill caught a fast one on her, then I could see it working. But she just stood there. I'm looking at it right now.
Right.
She just stood there for so long
Waiting.
and just grabbed her ankles. And Taya was like, oh, my ankles have been grabbed. I need to do the most deliberate, like basic 101. That's how my daughter does forward rolls in gymnastics. She's 5.
Right.
Right. And it just, they even cut, there was a different camera angle before it, and they cut to another camera angle on the other side, which was like, hey, this is a more blatant, I don't know.
But here's the thing. It's Jade's move, right?
Right. So why?
Right. The same thing happened Orton and Shawn Michaels years ago. They did where Shawn they banded Shawn from using a super kick. And he did like an up and over. Orton hit the buckle. He lifted the leg like he was gonna do it. Mm-hmm. And then the ref waved it off, and then Orton hit the RKO, and that was the finish.
Right.
And that made perfect sense, like storytelling 101, because it's his move. It wasn't Shawn couldn't not use the RKO.
Yeah.
Right? So where does that make any sense at all for anybody?
It doesn't.
Because now that I'm even caught up on the story, it still does not make sense. Why would Taya go for someone else's finishing move, hold? What is her shit? Why didn't she just do her thing?
Right.
And how valuable is her shit now if she's being banned from using other bitches' finishes?
What I do know about the first night that Taya came in, Jade Cargill took a powder, right? And then Taya Valkyrie, staring her down, grabbed one of her stooges and hit Jade Cargill's finish on her stooge.
But why with someone else's finish? Why? Right. What are you proving? You're proving that your shit's not effective, so you'll use the girl who you're chasing, that her shit's effective. It's like Macho Man coming in after Hogan and giving everyone a leg drop, brother.
Right.
Like, I'll show you. And then at WrestleMania 5, Macho wasn't allowed to use the leg drop, but he can throw all the Macho Man elbows you want.
Right.
None of that makes sense. No. Is anyone in the fucking back saying like, hey, what about my shit? Let me put some value behind my stuff and ban my move. No one thought of that? Who's writing this shit?
I don't know. What I want to know is like, you know who the roster of like coaches and agents or whatever they call them there.
Yeah.
Who they are. These are people who are high level, great wrestlers. It's not like they took fucking Tiger Ali Singh and made him an agent. You got Dean Malenko, you got Jerry Lynn there, you got Billy Gunn, Arn Anderson, BJ Whitmer. Like, there are so many people there that I feel like should know better than to let so much of this shit happen. But I don't know if they're like, this isn't a good deal, or if everybody's just quiet as a church mouse.
That's what I don't understand, because how do they go to the back and it's high fives all around thinking like, yep, we did that.
Yeah.
None of that made sense.
Yeah.
And again, getting back to, are the wrestlers speaking up? Because like, even if an agent came to me and told me, hey, you have to do this, this, and this, if it doesn't make sense, or like I have no value in it, which clearly Taya doesn't, except that she can, is the story that she can do Jade's moves better than Jade? Is that the storyline here?
I'm not
Is she
too.
is she a better Jade than Jade is?
I mean, I don't put any of the blame on Jade Cargill in any of this because
No, I'm not.
she
But
doesn't know better.
Talia should.
Yes.
Like, it's shame on her for allowing that to even happen, really.
Yeah.
Now, is everyone there brainwashed into thinking like, hey, just be nice to the money mark and tell him he's really, really great, like Jericho does, and then gets like another 10-year deal at $5 million a year for the next 10 years, and you're just there like all the way to the bank? I mean, I'm happy everyone's making money, but Jesus Christ, like, can you just have some decent matches on weekly shows? Like, I don't know.
I can't stop looking at it.
It's so bad. And then it's like every time I watched it like 5 times before I said anything, and I thought, yeah, I just needed to confirm that I saw that awfulness. And
did you watch it long enough to see that she hooks up or what's her name? Aubrey Edwards?
Yeah. And then all the refs run in, right?
Yeah.
But that's Jade's move.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We're done with this. Because
hold on. I love how all the refs run in for this.
Yeah.
Okay. But Moxley's out there stabbing motherfuckers with a screwdriver, and there's nobody to be whatever.
And no one for miles. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's in the back, like, oh, geez, I'm not going out there.
It's the main event. The security went home already. We're running late. Right. But anyway, more bad. Well, I consider this a bad thing that happened on TV wrestling this week, and it's actually out of WWE land. Did you see? That's a lie. I know. Well, I told you to watch it. I don't know if you did. Did you watch the Triple H promo where he introduced the new WWE World Heavyweight Championship?
So you did tell me to do that Monday.
And then you didn't do it.
And then I didn't do it.
Okay.
And that's where we are now.
Okay, cool. I'm going to catch you up if you don't mind. And I'm going to try not to, run into the weeds and take an hour to do it. He basically came out.
Right.
Took a tablecloth off of the big gold belt with a WWE license plate stamped in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And was like, well, basically, to sum it up, he basically said, Roman Reigns isn't going to wrestle that much. And since the title is not going to be defended that often, and whatever brand he gets drafted to, he's going to be exclusive to. But you deserve a champion that's going to be here. So here's this new belt. I took that as almost burying Roman Reigns. And I only say that because he went out there and cut the babyface promo that every babyface that can be challenging Roman Reigns should be cutting. You know what I mean? Think about when they were doing it to Cena and when Cena was doing it to The Rock. You're not here. I'm here all the time. They did the same shit to Brock Lesnar. The champion's never here to defend his title.
Roman did it himself to Brock. Yeah.
Right. That could have been somebody's promo.
Yes. True.
And then now you're making this new. First of all, the design of the title, I'm not that upset about it because at least it looks like a fucking championship belt.
Yeah.
Compared to a stencil on leather.
I was just gonna say it's better than what they have, but what they have is already ass to begin with.
Right.
So it's like it's a step up. Yes, it's a step in the right direction. Looks like getting the belts back to
Belts.
what they were, yeah, what they were
Right.
supposed to look like, I guess.
The only title there that they have that I like is the new U.S. title.
Yeah,
I think is pretty dope. But at least this looks like a championship belt. But
right.
it looks like a championship belt, but it feels like a consolation prize. And by that I mean basically whoever is going to win that belt has lost to Roman Reigns in the
Yeah,
last 3 years, whether it's Balor, Lesnar, Seth
yeah,
Rollins, Cody, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Matt Riddle, Shinsuke Nakamura. There's 10 guys there that you could normally put a world title on,
yeah.
but they've all been dominated over the last 3 years. This is kind of like the world heavyweight runner-up belt. And I don't know if they needed it.
Well, they technically I don't think they need it, but this is this a spoiler to hey, Roman's not dropping that belt anytime soon, so is basic again going back to what we had spoke about before. This isn't Cody's story; it's the Roman story that we're all in the middle of right now, and this just proves it. I mean, I'm I'm more like I would have made the rule since Roman is both champions that he needs to go to both shows and have him on everything until someone beats him because
Mm-hmm.
the amount of heat he's got right now, that loss for the championship is only going to elevate the championship and that guy. Then
Right.
like you're saying, like you're giving them a consolation prize, like a participation award. Thanks for showing up today. Uh, here's your belt. It just takes everything away from it. Like I feel like they could have had him lose the world title, the black belt, and kept running with the universal because the universal one is where he's like in 1,000 days, right? I think because he beat Brock for the world heavyweight title at Dallas WrestleMania last year.
Yes. And he was already the Universal Champion.
Yeah. So like, does it really hurt him if I don't know, somehow you get Cody back into the mix and says the world heavyweight title is what I want. That's the one that they took from my dad in the garden, blah blah blah.
Right.
That's the original. That's the WWE world belt that Hogan and everybody had. This universal thing is new, but that's where he's kind of laying down his
That's
right
where he's
his
making his
legacy.
mark.
Yeah, he's leaving his legacy there. I don't know. I just feel like you missed the boat on him putting somebody over and elevating him and still keeping his heat because he's the universal champion. I mean, I don't know. Like this is just bad.
I feel like, first of all, the promo was basically Triple H coming out. And like, I feel like he was just saying, hey, we're the promotion, but we can't make this guy defend his title, which was like the first problem I had with it.
Right.
Because, like, aren't you in charge?
Correct.
And then, like I was saying, the design, it feels like a consolation prize. But who do you put this title on?
I was thinking about that. So wait, the draft is what this week?
Well, the NFL draft is right now.
The draft, the Raw and SmackDown.
Probably. I feel like when he did the promo for the draft, he was like, "The draft is coming up in a few weeks, and it's gonna be the draft." But
Yeah.
I
So
don't
like
really know.
I don't like they didn't say any date. The draft begins. I guess they do two of them. It's how they did it in the past. Like they do a Monday Night Raw one, and they
Right.
do the SmackDown one.
I mean, Roman Reigns is obviously going to be the first pick in the draft.
Yeah, of course. So does he go to Raw because he's the ratings puller and Raw's low?
Raw's actually, from what I've been seeing, Raw is Raw and SmackDown are both up.
Okay, but what I'm saying is the
Raw is lower than SmackDown, yes.
Yeah, like consistently, right?
Right.
And he's rarely on Raw, so you got
Yeah.
to figure that's the change. It's like when Cena jumped to SmackDown that first time, that was
Right.
the big shocker, right? And if they're re-upping their USA Network contract soon, this is a nice like, hey, look, we got Roman for you. Aren't you happy? You know?
Right.
And then Heyman and all that ups that. So I mean, are we, and is Triple H really booking this thing, or is Vince, pulling the strings still from the back? Like, what's really going on back there? Because if it's Triple H booking it, I feel like we see maybe Finn, maybe Seth. Like I feel like it's one of the worker guys.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's that, if it's Vince, I feel like Vince doesn't really care for Finn.
No.
So I don't know. I don't even know if you can do Finn now because as the Demon, he lost at WrestleMania. So like, where is he at? And then they're doing it in Saudi Arabia, right?
Right. Which to me, you don't put. I know you didn't say it, but the first thing I thought was you don't put the new world's heavyweight title on the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes in Saudi Arabia. Right?
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, you do.
The guy with the tattoo American flag face on his neck who comes out dressed like, a Marvel comic,
Yeah.
Captain America, which I'm
Captain
not
America.
knocking. I think his whole deal is a good deal, but you don't do that in Saudi Arabia.
I mean, yeah, do you put it on Cody? And does that mean Cody obviously would go to SmackDown? So I don't know. I mean, I don't watch it. So, and then where the fuck is AJ Styles?
I read on Twitter the other day, my favorite place, that he's still not ready.
Oh, I thought it was just a broken ankle.
Yeah.
Oh.
When you break an ankle at the tender age of 45, it probably takes a little longer to heal.
That's true.
Now,
it's like how long did Tibbs milk that ankle thing? Remember? Jesus, that was a good year.
Yeah,
a good year. Was Eric's dad that kept saying this guy in his fucking ankle? That's all I can remember was Eric's dad was mad because he's like, this guy in his fucking ankle.
Oh God. Yeah, I cut a finger off and came back in a quicker amount of time.
I mean, I honestly don't know. I mean, I don't know. Do you put it on Cody? And then is it a consolation prize?
Well, I have two guys.
Is beating Roman more important to Cody or winning the world title more important as a character and the development of him? Like, who is he chasing?
Roman should be more important.
It should be. So I feel like, what if that ventured off into Raw, and Cody's thinking bigger than the world, the universe. So he's after the Universal title and breaking and stopping Roman from his terror of, making WWE billions of dollars yearly,
What a bad man.
He's a bad man.
And then I've got two guys that I put him on.
Who?
And they're both hot takes.
Okay.
But they're two guys that have not done a job to Roman Reigns.
Okay.
I go Braun Breaker.
Yeah.
Or Solo Sikoa.
No.
Hold on. Hear me out.
All right.
Okay. I've realized over like rewatching packages and stuff of basically a little bit before WrestleMania and anything that's happened since WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And I think in with Roman being absent, right?
Yeah.
Paul Heyman has slowly and very delicately planting seeds that Solo Sikoa is going to be the one that they spin out of this group. It's not going to be one of the Usos on their own.
No,
Roman's
God.
obviously already the megastar.
Right.
To keep Paul Heyman on TV and to keep this bloodline thing hot without Roman Reigns, I think they make Solo Sikoa the star and let Paul do all the talking for him.
So he's the Batista of Evolution.
Yes. Just not
See,
as big and flashy and,
yeah.
aesthetically pleasing as WWE normally likes, but it'll keep steam and importance on that angle. And I've been noticing, like watching, like they did a 6-man on Monday Night Raw the other night with the Usos and Solo, and when they came to the ring and they hit their pose, Solo was standing in the center and in front of both of the Usos.
Mm. Yeah,
And I think that they, with Paul's promos over the last few months and the last few weeks, like, I feel like they're hinting at, obviously making him the world heavyweight champion is a major fucking stretch.
yes.
But I think that there's something there that to keep this angle hot, to keep this angle fresh, he might be the way to go, because I think, first of all, in hindsight now, they made the wrong decision on the outcome of the tag title match at WrestleMania.
You think so?
I think right now, putting the tag titles on Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn so quick after they recoupled,
Right.
and now on the other side of it, they tried to continue the angle, which obviously I guess made sense,
Right.
but I feel like it's ice cold now.
I've noticed the subtle hints of that, separating him from the bloodline, or him doing all those little, even with Roman's interaction with him. Like,
Right.
I think there was I think it was just on Twitter, somebody had a clip of Roman like scolding him walking back to the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like every time, like when you look at him, he's real stone faced, or he shows no reaction, no emotion. It's like he's just been taking it in. So it's like a constant, kind of like a little bit of a jab here, a little bit of a jab there. But I mean, yeah, now that you break it down that way, like I can probably see them doing that. Like, because I mean, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Just keep running with the guys on top, and all it's going to do is challenge other guys to step up and try to get themselves over.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes sense. I thought you were going to say Austin Theory. I feel like if Vince were in more control, it would lean to that.
Yeah.
But because I feel Braun Breaker, although it sounds good and it would be a nice, there's just, he doesn't have enough equity built in yet,
Yes.
especially
The
on.
only reason
Yeah.
I thought it is because he's the only
Yeah.
guy who basically hasn't been on the main roster television yet
Yeah.
and hasn't done a job for Roman Reigns.
I get it, and I wish it were that easy and could be done. I just feel like a lot of times, especially when they're going worldwide like that to another
Yeah.
country, it's it has to be someone that they're a little more familiar with
Mm.
there. It's just like a WrestleMania win and loss. Like you go with
Yeah.
the guy that's been there longer, whether the fans like it or not. It's just how it is because it's WrestleMania, uh, and it's the equity that's been built into that person over X amount of decades sometimes, and you go with that person. But no, that I could see that as a possibility. I thought maybe Theory obviously needs to get rid of that U.S. title so we don't have a double belt situation again.
Again.
Then comes how do you get it off them but keep them still on the path of top guy level?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, do you do like the 3-way thing and he never gets beat and he
Right.
loses his shit, and then we're off to Saudi Arabia, and then so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the roster enough yet
Well,
uh, to really think about who else it could possibly be. I think also with Theory, I believe they're really taking their time with them, which I would rather them do than
yes.
pull that trigger too quick. Because I feel like that first title run, like remember when Bryan first won the world heavyweight title,
Mm-hmm.
it was like lackluster at best. And then when Punk first won it, it was like,
Yeah,
you're not
hold this for
really,
2 weeks.
yeah, you're not really the world champion, you
Yeah.
know. So I don't want them to do that with Theory. I really wish that they would. Part of me wants to see it. Just the reaction of him winning the world heavyweight title would be like, a new chapter, I guess. Like, holy shit, like, But then I'm thinking they're not gonna protect him because he's not been there longer than everybody else. And he's too young. It's like I feel
Well,
like he needs to go through his different layers of like be a good heel, try to switch babyface, go back to being a heel, and then that second heel run is really where he's gonna be all systems go and kind of have the rocket ship behind him. But I mean, other than that, I have no clue who else. Like I thought maybe Finn, but I doubt it. Like that's as close to. I mean, Finn and Braun Breaker are on the same basket of people I think that would surprisingly win it. But
right. I'd also like to see LA Knight win something.
something, but they're not gonna. That's There's no way. The way they treat the he's good and he's decent on the mic, but I feel
Oh,
like it's
he's fantastic on the mic. The guy
is he
cuts,
really
the guy
though?
cuts promos like fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I
Okay,
mean,
and he's got the like I feel like when I listen to him and I watch him, I feel like I've got like a ball of Steve Austin and The Rock, and they're just not. Don't look at me like that.
that's fine. That's your opinion. I
The
don't like
people
it.
are into him. He's over with the people. He's just not over with the office.
Well, I mean, that's part of the game there. I mean, like there's got to be a reason why he's not over with the office then. And whatever that is going to stop him from I
It's
don't
probably
that
because he said, "Hey, I don't want to do this model bullshit." And
and they probably said, "Hey, you ain't been here long enough to say what you don't like,
yeah.
so learn
Oh,
to
you
like
want
it."
to be LA Knight? Cool. Let me know how
Yeah,
many lights are in the ceiling at night.
exactly. Yeah, we
Yeah.
need a count at every arena across the world by the end of this quarter. Um, like I don't see that happening. Like I would like to see him do stuff, but I need for me to be sold on him. I need to see what he does with like an IC run or
Yeah.
a US title run and kind of get me to change my mood on him because he hasn't done anything right,
Right.
and then he had that short identity crisis. So we're really trying to restart with this guy, you know, and like, I mean, it's always, if you really want to see someone's work in the, like, he doesn't impress me in the ring. I had to wrestle him a couple times on the independents, and like, he's kind of one of those move guys where if it's flashy, he wants to do it just to say he did it, you know, or just to get a reaction. So that's turned me off to his whole character altogether, because I had to argue with him over like, well, that doesn't make sense there. Like, you know, well, that's usually when I do it. I didn't ask when you usually do it. I'm telling you, it doesn't make sense there. So that
I'm
won't be
telling you
happening.
when you're not doing it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So like in ring wise, because he's very, you know, wrestling 101, he basically takes a lot of stuff, and he's kind of goofy in the ring to me, you know, like his selling and stuff. I don't know. There's just, I don't care two shits how he talks on the mic, because then the bell has to ring. You have to remember too, when you're the world champion, we all kind of forget that there's that post dark match that happens after the TV shows,
Right there.
you know, where you got to go put another 15 in so Vince could get in the limo and get out of town before traffic, right?
Right. With people who are ready to go home.
Yeah. And then you got to make it good enough to where they all want to come back the next Monday Night Raw and see more of what you gave them. That's
Right.
the trick between, that was the problem. Remember, they had with Goldberg in WCW. I think Kevin Nash said it multiple times. He's not going to give you 20 minutes on a house show.
Right.
Because he can't, you know. You know, it just, and I don't think he's, I don't know. I don't think he's good. He's that good to carry at that level. I need to see what he's going to do with like an Intercontinental title run first, and then run him through the gauntlet, like Murderer's Row, Sheamus, McIntyre, Finn, AJ. If you can keep up with these guys, okay, then, you know, like, then we can look into that option. But yeah, I'm not sold on that ever happening. Like, I would see Theory before him easily,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
Well, maybe they're doing the same thing to him that they did to Theory. They're gonna beat him like a drum for a year and then start pushing him.
Maybe, I mean, maybe it'll stop him from saying, "Hey, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that." And
Yeah.
I don't know. Who
But
knows?
like you said before, there's going to be, you know, probably 70,000 people in that stadium at gunpoint, like a WrestleMania. So they're probably going to want to send them home happy. So it'll probably be, you know, Seth Rollins so everybody can sing his theme song.
See, I think, yeah, like, I feel like it's gonna be Seth. I don't know why. He did the 3 favors for Cody. He's basically doing nothing of importance, right? Like, WrestleMania came and gone, and he had, you know, a decent match with what's his name, and then other than that, it's not super, you know, he's not on fire yet.
I have major Seth Rollins fatigue, so I
That's
hope
true
they
too.
almost do anything else. But and then the last thing I was, you know, going back to the bloodline thing, like what are they doing throwing Matt Riddle in this deal?
What's that?
The You got Dave Meltzer over there in the background. I said, what are they doing throwing Matt Riddle in with this whole Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn? Like,
When did Matt Riddle get so much, like, who likes him so much? I don't understand. I appreciate his effort in the ring. He works his ass off.
yeah,
But he is just, I don't know. There's nothing to him. I don't understand the love for him. I don't get it. Like, I
yeah,
think that was a bad call. I knew they had to bring him back in a big way, I guess. But did it need to be that big?
right.
Like, seriously.
But anyway, let's you want to get some Lucha Underground stuff?
Yeah, let's go to that.
All right, cool. Let me pull up this other list here. All right. The first thing I got here was who reached out to you about Lucha Underground? Like, who was the first person to make contact with you, and how was it all pitched?
So it happened on a Friday afternoon. The whole week from Wednesday to Wednesday was like life changing for me. So on Wednesday was Becky's birthday, and that's when she told me she was pregnant. So I remember I had some shows on the weekend, obviously. So I said, let's go to dinner Friday night and, just talk or, whatever. And then I had left my phone at home. And when I got back, Conan had called me like 6 times. And I was like, oh shit. So he finally left a voicemail and was like, yo, call me as soon as you can, this Conan, whatever. And I was like, all right. So I called him up and he said, and I had been in contact with Conan. This was 2014. So I wrestled him in 2001, and kept in contact with him about AAA since then. So for off and on for years, starting in 2006, he had talked about the possibility of AAA doing a US brand, trying to run events in the US. He didn't know if it was just going to be house shows or if they were going to they were trying to get TV in the US. So for years I had been emailing and I would call him and talk to him. And, he was always very, very cool and very honest with me. Like, cause he had like Jack Evans down there and those guys, and Rocky was down there, so he always wanted to get me in the mix. Me and Homicide were like on his list of guys he really wanted to get in, but they could never find, there was only a certain amount of spots that they could do, And so to answer the question, it was Conan said, hey, someone's going to call you from a LA number on Monday afternoon, like 9, 10 a.m., whatever. And he said, the deal is done. We've been working on it for a long time. He told me about the El Rey network and, whose network it was and and it was basically, he had told me it was going to be AAA USA was going to be the brand. So he told me that, and I was like, okay, cool, thanks, appreciate it, whatever. So I remember telling Becky, I was like, well, he says, that this is going to happen. I said, he's been working on it for years. I guess we'll see. So sure enough, Monday, I was at the gym, 323 number comes up. I pick it up and it's a producer in LA. He thought I was still living in Los Angeles. So he said that they had wanted me to come in to read lines for the show. He goes, because it's a TV series about a wrestling promotion. And I said, oh yeah, like I wish I could, but I live in Pennsylvania now. And they were like, oh, you're not in LA anymore? And I said, well, I was never in LA, but I was in Southern California, but no, I'm not there anymore. And they, oh, okay. I said, if you want to fly me down there, I can come in and meet and do whatever, but they were like, all right, well, we still want you on the show. We have your pictures and everything, all your information. They went over the whole, like, oh, you have an impressive wrestling credentials and stuff, and it's about wrestling, so we need wrestlers. And I was like, yeah. But at the time, the network, WWE Network, was going to be starting, or at least I was told that it was in the works of starting it. And that Canyon Seaman had told me that when they start the network, one of the featured shows was going to be, the 205, the Cruiserweight Classic first, but then a television show dedicated just to cruiserweights. So, that was something I was emailing Canyon every 2 or 3 weeks, and he would reply back instantly. So I knew that it wasn't bullshit. He wasn't bullshitting me. He just couldn't give me a date, So Monday I spoke with, I think his name was Mark, the producer, and then he said, "All right, well, Tony will send you an offer later this week." So I was like, "All right." So I gave him, I said, "Here's my information if you don't have it." And he was like, "All right, yeah, it all checks out. That's what we have." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So when I got off the phone with El Rey Network, I called Canyon, and I said, "Hey man, my wife just told me that she's pregnant. I have an offer. I'm gonna get an offer from these guys that are starting up. It's a Mexico City promotion. And everything's kind of checking off as far as being the truth, and it's really happening." And I said, "I know you don't know yet when the network is starting, but can you give me some sort of, tell me you're going to hire me in time and I'll turn it down.
Right.
If you're not sure even yet how this is really going to go down yet, I'm going to go with taking this deal because, I have to, and I didn't have anything else cooking for me, at that time." So he said, "Look, man," he goes, "why don't you just take the deal?" He goes, "Because I really don't know when this is going to start." And he goes, "No, I'm just being honest with you." And he goes, "I would rather you take the money now while you can." And he said, "You call me when you're done with that deal, and I'll try to figure something out from that point on." And I was like, "All right, thank you, whatever, for your honesty and all that stuff." So the next Tuesday afternoon, I got the offer letter, and then the contract itself. And Wednesday, I signed it and sent it off, and that was it. So I was technically the first wrestler to sign the contract with Lucha Underground. So they always joke that my employee number was 001 because I was the first employee. The only other person attached to it that had any wrestling credentials was DJ Christopher DeJoseph, who was Bruce and Vince's right-hand man for quite a few years. For like 8 years, he wrote Raw.
Right.
So it was him and I were linked up through all the social media outlets, like the news. Oh, Christopher DeJoseph and Ricky Reyes, and that was it. Like that's all we knew, right? So everybody was like, "All right, so what?" Like we don't know who this guy is, and it's just Ricky Reyes. So it didn't have too much steam coming out of the gate.
Right. I remember when you were waiting for the network cruiserweight show, and then when all this happened, you were like, "Oh," and then clearly you made the right decision.
I called Christopher Daniels too, asked for some advice because he always told me, like, because he was always in that predicament of WWE was hot on him, cold on him, hot on him, cold on him, but then he always went back to TNA or stuck with TNA, or TNA would re-sign him and he would take it. And he kind of used a lot of those examples, in this scenario where he was like, if WWE wants you, they'll come get you. Like, and he goes, it's, you gotta keep going and keep, this is your next step, your next level. You're going to be a better wrestler having been there. And he was right. But I mean, it just felt better, like listening to him kind of explain his, going through the same stuff, Did
I ever tell you my Christopher Daniels story?
Yours? No.
All right. So me and Vin are going to this show in Connecticut.
When you picked him up?
What? Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was him and Eric. It was you two?
Me and Vin. And we pick him up, and we're riding up there, and we're like about to pass a McDonald's or something. Yeah. And he was like, "You guys want to stop for lunch? They got these chicken supreme wraps or whatever the fuck they are." And we were like, "Oh, yeah. And he was like, "All right, who's buying?" And me and Vin were like, and then he was like, "All right, I guess we're not stopping for lunch." Oh god. All right. Now, the next thing was like the contract structure and exclusivity. Like
Right.
the message I got was
Mhm.
that they were wondering because apparently there was like an issue with Ricochet trying to go to New
Yes.
Japan
Yes.
before the season ended or aired.
Yes.
So how did that work?
Okay, so the first season, season 1, we couldn't do anything that was on any kind of pay-per-view, streaming, Fight TV. Like, they were like, you guys can't do any of this stuff.
So nothing
And
televised.
right, but everything is televised now.
Right.
Like, well, that was when it was starting, right? Like a lot more places were getting on Fight and being advertised.
Now, is this like you couldn't do anything that was like like a contracted thing, or like you couldn't even go do extra work at SmackDown?
That was it.
Okay.
It was, yeah, like once I signed, uh, I stopped even trying to get on WWE. I just was, cut off altogether. I mean, I never reached back out,
Right.
because we definitely weren't allowed to do WWE or NXT or anything like that.
Right.
Um,
They probably
Obviously.
didn't know what Impact was, so you could have got away with
Yeah,
it.
well, that, yeah. And then, so the first season they were real strict on it. And then we went. So Tony, who was in charge of our contract, he was.
Hold on, your sound is cut out.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right. So Tony, he was in charge of our contracts. This guy.
Tony Khan?
No,
That would have been nice, right?
it would have, yeah, could have got a much better car, but yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, no, this guy Tony Jenkins, he was in charge of our contracts, and he was super super cool. He was an actor himself, but he was our, like, the office guy, like in charge of all of us. And I came to him a couple of times and I said, look, man, a lot of us, have to still do independence to stay alive here, because really shooting the entire season of Lucha Underground, although we were paid really well, it ends after 6 months. It's, to tape an entire season takes anywhere from 4 to 6 months to complete everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the other 6 months before the season starts back up, if and when, we can't tell promoters, well, I can't work for you. You got to tell them I'm not available that date, but I can do this date. And so it turned into me and obviously other wrestlers kind of, bringing this issue up. So by the second season, we were allowed to do some streaming service, but what became an issue was the Lucha Underground advertisement or logo or character names. Like, Swerve was Kill Shot,
Right.
so he couldn't do the Kill Shot gimmick right there, but he could be advertised as seen on Lucha Underground as Kill Shot. Same thing with
Okay.
Son of Havoc, Matt Cross. Well, those guys, they had Wardrobe had made their costumes, so Wardrobe kept their gear anyways, so they weren't using it anywhere else. My character and gimmick and all that stuff, I kind of made up myself, and I went and bought it all, and I had it. I didn't have Wardrobe make anything for me. So I said, well, what about me? Because I'm not a mass character. I'm kind of just doing this character everywhere because that's how I'm getting booked, is people want to see the Cortez character,
Yeah.
not the Cuban crippler, so he always told me that I was one of the adults in the locker room, and that I never,
If
I
we only
never,
knew.
bro, right? Like, he wasn't in the locker room. He wasn't in the locker room very much at all,
Clearly.
or the hotel. But so he was always like, well, you're always on time. You don't. There was some other guys that were, always bitching about usually money and quote unquote creative control, brother. So I just never, I never thought that I couldn't get over in 2 minutes. I just did what I was told. So he was always like, yeah, just do what you want to do. Like if you're wearing the gimmick already, it is what people like. I get it. Um, so he didn't mind it at all. But then there would be other guys on the same shows I would see, and they would be advertised as Lucha Underground, and they would send him a cease and desist letter. So I've had promoters call me like, hey, I just I use this guy, Wrestler A from Lucha Underground, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know. And they're like, yeah, like they just sent me a cease and desist because I've been advertising him as Lucha. But I did the same thing with you, and I was like, some of us are liked and some of us are not liked in the office. So that was one scenario where it got out to the social media that it was a problem, right? Because then those guys would go out and bitch and complain. But with the Ricochet issue was they kept him off one of the Super Juniors tours.
Right.
And yeah, I can't remember which one it was, but I remember he won Super Juniors and was supposed to go back and challenge for the belt, and they pulled him off of it. And he was pretty pissed. Like I remember he was in the back and he was like, fuck, he's like, I can't go back. And then the next year Super Juniors came up and that's when they pulled him from the whole tournament. Although he was paid very well from my understanding from Lucha Underground to kind of,
offset
ease the pain. Yeah. I remember then the third year he was like, fuck that, I'm going. I told him like, I don't care. Like I can't miss it again. And then that's when he went back and ultimately lost, because if you win the tournament, you got to lose to, the champion or whatever at some point. So yeah, I remember the third time he was like, I told him no, because I asked him, I was like, what's it look like this year? And he was like, well, I'm going. He's like, I don't give a fuck what they say. So, and then it was a pretty messy breakup at the end, too, with them trying to get him for like season 4. That got real messy, but that was more his issue. I just knew that I was pretty close with them at the time, and he would kind of tell me the stuff that was going down. And again, you have to look at it from both perspectives. Like, he knows what he signed up for.
Right.
And then when they didn't want to band for him, then he would get mad. Then, he's not looking at it from their perspective. Like they're just trying to make sure that he's good to go for everything else that they need him for. And it just turned into, a big hissy fight. So.
All right. Well, like you said, man, I mean, like you signed up for something, you knew what bed you were jumping in when you jumped in it. So,
well, that was the thing that bothered me the most was when like Ivelisse, Thunder Rosa, maybe Cage, a couple other people, they just started shitting on Lucha Underground. Like, once season 4 ended, it was a little bit of a process to get out of those contracts because they didn't know if we were going to get a season 5 yet, and they were still working on it. So in that time, you're technically still theirs, and then they would go on social media and shit all over it. And then all the nerds were like, yeah, they're holding you guys down, and I'm like, bitch, nobody else would be interested in you if it weren't for Lucha Underground, and instead of being an adult about this shit and getting on the phone and talking to somebody and trying to figure something out, they went and cried on social media about it.
Right. None of them really caught mainstream traction again for another 6 years. So
that was their fault though. Like, I mean, again, I went to Tony face to face and he always told me, if you ever need anything, call me, and I mean, I didn't have anything on the fire after Lucha Underground. I was really happy just traveling around the country and doing my own stuff, making my own schedule. And that's what I wanted to do. I didn't reach back out to WWE. I didn't do anything, because I mean, I talked to TJP, like, you know, a number of times when they came to Staples Center, we'd go out to eat and Rocky and everybody. And when I knew this was winding down, I didn't ask like, hey, can I get in WWE now? Can you help me? You know, I was good. Like they both asked me, you know, hey man, what are you gonna do now? And I'm like, bro, I'm good. Like I have a busy schedule. I love where I'm at. Well, love what I'm doing. I'm making money. Like I'm good. I have no one to answer to anymore, you know. So that was the best thing for me, you know. But everyone else just it's like and then now you see them in AEW or you see them, you know, in ROH or whatever, and they're still bitching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you can't fucking win.
Right.
You know, and now you're getting a regular check. Like there we were only getting paid when we were shooting.
Right.
So like I said, your income would go extremely high 4 to 6 months into the year, and then you're back on independence making what you normally make, which should be good if you marketed yourself right. But these guys now are making a good salary for long periods of time, and they're still on social media bitching and crying about everything. So I mean, that's what you get. Like,
or wearing tights that say "Get my shit in," and
yeah, just doing random stupid shit, blowing yourself up, and then looking bad at the very end of your match. Like, whatever.
Did you know, like when it first started? Did you know specifically like what your character arc was going to be? So did you know in the beginning of season 1 where you were going to be at the end of season 4?
No, not at all. So when DJ called me, maybe early August or so, and he said about what I was going to wear. I was supposed to be Son of Havoc.
Okay.
I was penciled in as that. One of the guys had seen me at an ROH show that lived in Connecticut and was saying that like my emotion and facials, like to be covered up in a mask would be not doing anybody any favors. And his exact words were, I don't think he does too many flips off the ropes like the other guys. so he nailed it. He nailed it there.
If he would have said, I think he has done 2 flips off the ropes, he still would have been highballing there.
Yo, yeah.
Yeah.
But so they called me with this situation and wanted to know how I felt about it. So they pitched the idea of what Son of Havoc was, and I'm like, okay. And then they said, "Well, you wear a mask," and then I was like, "Eh." And then they were like, it was on a Zoom call. So the other guy was like, "See, I knew it. You don't want to wear the mask, right?" And I said, "Well, no, I don't." And then I said the exact same thing he was saying was, I said, I feel like facial wise, like I can get the point across with emotion and stuff. That's kind of how I base my matches. And he was like, yeah. So then they said, what about like a thug gimmick, like a character, like a street fighter, vicious, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, yeah, that's
that.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm all that. And then, and then DJ said, what would you wear? And he goes, we can make you whatever you want. And I said, I always wanted to do like the cargo pants tucked into the kick pads. And I thought like the gloves, almost like a murderer would wear, you know, gloves, you know. And he was like, yeah, that's good. That's good. And I said, I can go get the stuff and make the outfit up. And then you tell me what you think. So I went, got the stuff, came home, took a picture, emailed it to him. He said, perfect, bring all that. And that was it. And then when we got there, we didn't know shit. Like we didn't know the name of the show. I mean, it was posted everywhere, Lucha Underground, but that was the first time any of us, you know, were like aware of that was what they went with. Because we heard multiple names that weren't true.
They made the jerseys for you guys though, right?
Yeah, they made wardrobe, did all that. But then they
Huh?
Huh?
Did you get to keep that?
Yeah, I think we have it. I think I have it because I know I brought it home.
Good
I
snag.
don't know where it is, but they so like we knew what the story was for the next 4 to 8 weeks. Like we knew up until the first like ladder match that like Puma, Big Rick, and Morrison had. So when we got there, they were like, "Look, you're gonna feud with Morrison and Ricochet. They're gonna have the first main event. You're gonna come out, beat the shit out of all of them. You guys are what people are gonna see at the end of the show." So we were like, "All right." The next day, we had that awesome tag match, and then it was kind of just moving along in that story. All right, you're still, you know. So what they would do, what I found out they were doing was they would book like four 4 to 8 weeks at a time. So they would kind of watch and see how everything was developing and then write from that point on. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
so that nobody really had a long story.
Right.
Like really knew the end, right? So and then season 1 ended, and then I was in North Carolina wrestling, and I was at a gym, and DJ called me and said, "Hey, Officer Reyes," and I was like, "What?" And that was when I was going into season 2. I was gonna be an undercover cop. I probably
Right.
laughed for like 20 minutes in the gym because I was like, all the shit I did in season 1, and I'm a cop this whole time, like genius. But
Deep cover, brother.
so
Deep
and
cover.
then we knew that me and Joey were going to be a thing moving forward after we were having interactions, like uh, in character, So, and then season 3, they went ahead and pulled that trigger, and we got it done towards the end. So it was like a 2-year buildup for me and Joey.
Right.
So yeah,
All right. And then a question from me, because I never really asked you this, and it's not really Lucha Underground related, but Lucha Underground was a AAA
yeah,
partner, or right? Because you had Penta and all those guys.
yeah, yeah,
At the end of ROH, when Rocky went to Mexico and you
yeah,
stayed here, was there
yeah.
not an opportunity for you there in Mexico at that point, or did you not want to go, or like I never really asked you about why that happened?
So Rocky did not tell me he was going to Mexico
Oh, so you were pissed.
because no, I did not like Mexico.
Okay.
Um, I didn't like the style of wrestling that we had to wrestle there. I can do it, but I did not like it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't know if people realize or remember, for that matter, but Rocky didn't go to AAA. He went to CMLL. He
Right.
went back to CMLL, and he did the Gray Shadow gimmick. And then Conan convinced him to jump ship while he was living there and unmask himself as the Gray Shadow as Rocky Romero in AAA. And then him and X Pac and Alex started the Generation Mex.
Right.
So that was the start of that because they already had X Pac there, and we knew X Pac from when he was dating Joni. They would come to China. They would come to the New Japan dojo and work out with us once in a while. So they were already friends. So when he told me, so I moved to Pennsylvania, um, and then and then then that's when Rocky decided he wanted to go back to Mexico because he had worked that deal out. But he knew I didn't like it there. Like,
Okay.
yeah, I had no desire to go. We already established that when Mexico was over the first time, I was like, thank God this shit is done. Because they asked us like, oh, when can you come back? And they pulled out this giant calendar. We were in the office. We told them we were going home because New Japan said they had emailed us and said, look, you guys can come back January, try to get home. So we were like, all right. So we went in the office and we gave him like a 30-day notice. And they were like, okay. So they pull out this big calendar. When you come back? And I was like, nope, not coming back. No, we're done. And then Rocky was I could tell me and Rocky don't argue very much, but this was the time where I could feel like he wasn't the happiest with me. So we never really talked about it. We just went on our day. I was under the impression, okay, now we'll go back to Japan more often. And this is what I wanted and he wanted, but he loved wrestling in Mexico, like he got over there huge, now he's a mega star there, and you could tell that he really enjoys. It went against everything that I was trained and I was with Mr. Inoki, like the style of wrestling that he was teaching us in the dojo was not Mexican wrestling. It was completely ass backwards to him.
Yeah.
And I was hook, line, and sinker on anything he said was the way it was supposed to be. So I did not like wrestling there. And then luckily ROH picked up for us that year. So we did that. And then he told me, oh yeah, I'm moving to Mexico. And I was like, oh, have fun. I'm moving to Pennsylvania, and
I'm willing to bet he got less snow in Mexico.
Yeah.
No,
but so he went to CMLL and then he jumped ship pretty quick.
Right.
But he also said that Mexico, like CMLL kind of screwed him on it so that you get paid by your bookings and how high you are on the card. So he said when he first went over as Gray Shadow that he was in main events with Mystico. So he was making thousands of dollars a night. And then they bumped him down to like third match and you're only making maybe a couple $100, few $100,
right.
And he was pissed. So he said he took a huge hit. And then that's when Conan offered him something and he said, fuck it, I'm just going to go make history here. And he was like, I think only him and Eddie Guerrero are the only two to actually unmask themselves in Mexico City. So it's a big deal, like to take your mask off yourself.
Our next question comes from Kevin in Long Island. Me. I mean, I've never heard you say anything bad about the guy or anything. But knowing the kind of wrestling you like and shit, how annoyed were you when Jack Evans walked through the door at Lucha Underground?
So my thing with Jack was...
Well, just because there's that famous gif of him doing that 793 and you were kind of just like, oh, I'll catch you.
So I like Jack, even though he was, a human rubber man, the matches we had in ROH, I did not like because he could not do that style of wrestling. Like he was very one-dimensional, and the one-dimensional guys in that locker room, it's not that I didn't respect them. It's just, I didn't like it. I didn't like that they couldn't adapt to what the Ring of Honor style was supposed to be. So like a Colt Cabana, I didn't like. Jack Evans, I didn't like. The guys that like needed to do their shtick every night, I just thought was stupid. Not that everybody needed to do my style, but I just thought that
you want people to work.
The style of Ring of Honor, they could not or did not want to do, So there's the good and bad in that. There's good in the sense of like, okay, well, this guy's different. Okay. And I'm not saying I didn't do their stuff because I did. I just felt like they didn't want to bend, it was like, oh, I can only do this and that's it. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm all the way on the other side of the spectrum. I only do this. Right. All right. Well, if you're not going to bend, I'm not going to bend and we'll see what happens when we get out there. So like the not so good matches I've had in Ring of Honor are usually with those guys because there's no flow to it. That we never got any rhythm in there. And it was just kind of like a ooh, ah, back and forth. And then it's done. It's too choppy. Like it felt messed up, But then I look at a guy like Delirious, whose gimmick and characters, different than everybody's, and he had no problem following a story that we could make in the ring.
Right.
So it was very possible to have good matches with them, obviously, but they just didn't want to do it. So when he came to Lucha Underground, he was a heel. So that was the first time I ever saw him as a heel, and he was fantastic. So as a heel, he worked like a heel. He just cut guys off. He beat the shit out of them. He talked shit to the crowd. And I thought it was great. I mean, he was one of my favorite guys to watch while we were there as a heel. But then when he's babyface and he's shining and he's doing this and that, and he's with Angelico and they're lime green and they're all over the place, I just
Nothing
thought
wrong with lime green.
that's true. But I just thought it was like, I thought, it's two new age rockers, like rah rah, like us because we flip, with no real rhyme or reason to it. But
Right.
yeah, I didn't mind them. I didn't mind them in Lucha Underground. I actually enjoyed them very much.
Who did you have the least chemistry with in Lucha Underground?
Pimpinella.
I'm dead.
I'm trying to think of anybody I had a bad match with, and that would be the only one, because everybody kind of rolled their eyes because Pimpy just did Pimpy, right? Like,
Indeed.
that's all he can do. So, we would go in there and beat him up, and he just did the old Lucha guy rolling bump, off to his side, and then died, and then popped up when he was ready to kiss somebody, and then we all ran away scared because we didn't want to get kissed, and that was it. I mean, everybody else, dude, that locker room, you couldn't have a bad match if you tried. You know what I mean? Like, when you look back at the guys and girls that were back there, even when we mixed it up with the females, I mean, everyone brought it every night. And then, so it was hard to have a bad match. It was just when they were too charactery, too Exotico is just all character and haha,
Right.
and obviously that's what doesn't mesh well with me. So
Yeah,
it
we
was
all know
like,
how much you love haha.
yeah, so it was like putting the match together. It was like, okay, we're gonna do this, and then something, and then when does Pimpy does his stuff, and then we're all like, okay, and then we just go home. Like, it was just like, let's just get this fucking over with.
Were the matches, they were straight up bell to bell. They didn't cut to do something, or
Mhm.
because it was a TV show. They
Yeah.
wouldn't stop the match and set
Oh
up a
no.
different shot or anything. The matches, once the bell rang, you were having a wrestling match.
No, they've had to redo matches because
Okay.
of a botched finish, but they wouldn't just roll right into it again, because there was like a serious balancing act going on here, where yes, we could have done that stuff, and the floor director would probably just tell you, "Oh, do it again." But
You
the
had a lot of
live
crowd.
audience, the live audience went from being random people to being hardcore wrestling fans that you were trying to keep just as satisfied as the people watching, right?
Mhm.
So if you did something stupid, they let you know and they jump all over your shit. So I remember they redid a match. I remember it was like Big Rick. Man, it was like a mixture of like the AAA guys and then Big Rick and a couple other like American style, maybe Davari or somebody, that it's not that they purposely went out and had a bad match, but they could not fathom doing that type of stuff. Like, and they weren't going to get it, And I remember the finish was Big Rick holding Sexy Star down, like holding her shoulders down, like just pushing her to the ground. And she was pissed. Like, she did not, she was mad. Like, so Rick we had our own locker room. He came in our locker room and punched a hole through the wall. right after the match, the second match. So the first match was awful, right? And like she did a crossbody in the first match, and he didn't bump, and she just bounced off of him from the top. So big crossbody, like Lucha style, like way up in the air, and Rick was like boom, and then she just fell.
He didn't even catch her.
No, didn't even try. She just bounced right off him. She got mad. She started throwing stiff shots. He just pie faced her, told her to tag. Then it got all awkward and weird. So then the next day they were like, all right, in the dark, one of the darks was the retaping of that match. So I remember Melissa had to go back, get into the dress she was in the day before, just for that shot, come back, change again, because and then we were starting our next scene for the next day of shooting, right? So it was a little bit chaotic, and everybody was like, oh man, what the fuck? I got to change and do my hair. So it was a bunch of bitching and crying for nothing. But then Rick had told her, she Sexy Star, like, same finish. And she's like, no, I'm a strong woman. I'm a fighter, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, you're 105 pounds. Like, I'm just going to hold, I'm not going to hit you with anything because it should cripple you. You know, like, right. They didn't understand like his psychology behind what he did.
Right.
So he was super smart in that sense of like working reality based type of stuff. So he went out and like pushed her down, and she was squirming, like legitimately trying to stop the finish. And he came back and they got into an argument. He walked in our locker room and we just like, we knew it was bad. So we just kind of leaned back, and he was like, boom, and busted the wall. And I was like, grabbed my water and walked out. I was like, I'm going to go downstairs.
I got this phone call I need to make in a different state.
I was like, we got bagels? Where?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. We're at about 90 minutes here, and I'm going to ask you a couple of things that I just want to get like a rapid fire answer to.
All right.
And then we'll call it a day. Who did the most bitching and moaning in the Lucha Underground locker room?
Cage.
Who was the biggest spot monkey in the Lucha Underground locker room?
Toss up. Phoenix or Penta, obviously.
I was 100% certain that one of those was going to be your answer.
I would say Phoenix because it was a lot more complicated.
Who was the most like overqualified? Like, this guy shouldn't be here. Like, he should be, on WWE television.
Matt Cross.
Who was the least qualified to be there?
Pimpinella.
What was your favorite match there?
Season 1, episode 12. It was the crew with me, Cholo, and B-Boy against Argenis, Superfly, and Aerostar. And it was a match that the entire locker room, it was probably like the first big sellout. And it was kind of like a coming out party for us because all the Mexicans were excited for it because of those three guys. And then the office people were excited to see us as a unit. That was one of the few times we did a 6-man together and like how it would look. So I remember Dorian, the president of AAA, Dorian Pena. He was there with his parents and his wife and stuff. And we were about to go out. It was like we had like a break, and then the next series was going to start. And I remember telling him, I was like talking to him for a minute, and I was like, "Well, I don't get ready for my match." And he was like, "Oh yeah." So I remember he grabbed his phone and everything. And I said, "Hey, are you going to watch it? Can you watch it and tell me what you think?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's why we're here, to see this match." And I was like, "Oh, no pressure." Like, and he sat in the VIP area, and then like they even panned to him and stuff. But he was like, "This was the match when I saw, I was like, I have to see this." And that by far was my favorite match because I put that whole thing together from start to finish. And it wasn't easy because the Mexicans wanted to do their stuff and I wanted them to do their stuff, but I needed them to understand, like, It needed to be 50-50. It wasn't going to be 70-30 bullshit, you
Right.
know?
And they were
Because
going to bump and sell and take heat.
right, because we still needed to look like a cohesive unit that was a threat. And we didn't win very often, but when we did, I needed it to be violent and I needed it to be out of nowhere. So
Right.
the crowd would pop, oh shit, on the finish, and then instantly be like, fuck these guys, you know? So there was masterful booking towards the end that needed to get us to that point. And I needed everyone to be on page because I mean, they were giving me looks because Cholo was translating and everything. And I was telling Cholo, and I'm like, you better be telling them word for word what I'm telling them. And he's like, yeah, no, but they want to do. And I'm like, no. I said, they're going to do their stuff. They're just going to do it when I say they need to do it. And I laid that whole match out. Like, if you watch that match, you'll be like, yep, he put this match together. Like,
Yeah.
it's Ricky Reyes 101. Everything had purpose. Everything had value. And then afterwards, they were our best friends because I think they thought we were trying to stop them from doing their shit.
Right.
Because we just didn't let them randomly do it all throughout the match. We built it up to big moments for them, and then we destroyed them at the end, so no one looked bad.
Right.
You know.
And last question: how many more times do you think that you'd like to catch a Angelico jumping at you from the other side of the building in
I'm
your
good.
life?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah.
He when I retired, he messaged me and said that he appreciated everything I did for him there because both jumps I called for him to do on me. And I told him, I said, this will be awesome. This, you know, and this will help the show. And I said, you don't have anything to worry about. I said, I swear to God, I'll be there for you. And he was like, I trust you. And every time he came back and he was like, man, and then he wrote me this long, this long message that it meant a lot to me. So we got really close. Like he was one of those guys that was really cool, dude. And he just worked so hard in the ring and like it was cool. Yeah. Like where he's at now, you know, he's in AEW and he, you know, but he still reached out and said like that was a life-changing event for him. Like whether I knew it or we all knew it, to him, he said that he wouldn't be where he was or be doing what he's doing because he feels that put him on the map, you know, on a whole nother level. So it was cool because we had good matches and he had the want, he just didn't know how. So when I would explain stuff to him, much like you guys, like, oh, you want to do this? And then I'm like, look, here's how you make it valuable. And he would look at me like, wow, like, you know, he's like, you're like this little wizard of wrestling, you know, like he's like, you know, I think I'm doing it good and right because I get a big pop. And then I told him that there's a difference between getting pops and then building to an eruption. And the eruption part's going to make you more money, you know, whether he's doing it now or not, I don't know. But at the time when I was in the ring with them, I made sure everything made sense. So,
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of how many times I've heard you come back from a match and the person you were out there. I mean, I've even said it myself, like, I've never done that before. Like it was, that's what you do. And you know, you're a little wizard of wrestling. I smell
I guess.
a new catchphrase there. But anyway, we're about an hour and 40 minutes, Rick. I think this is a great place to stop.
Cool.
I really enjoyed talking about Lucha Underground and everything else we talked about tonight. I would like to next week talk to you a little bit about your time in like Puerto Rico
Okay.
and New Japan, because that was all stuff that I knew you did, and a lot of people know that you did, but I don't know really too much of the ins and outs of it. And as good of friends as we are, I feel like that's kind of some shit I should know. So
Got it.
should let all these other dipshits listening find out at the same time as me.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right, bro.
All
Well,
right.
ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 4 of Podfluxxx. Rick, what'd you think?
I thought it was good. It was
I
good.
thought it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of bad wrestling to make fun of, and then we had some good talking about old times. It's all right.
Yeah, and those were legitimate questions from a legitimate person / people.
Wow.
Listen. We have
Hims,
a
he's, and
small,
she's.
intimate following right now. We're
Couple
building
million,
a
I
fan
saw.
base.
Yeah.
We get more views a week than a lot of independent shows have in their crowd. So
This is true.
we're getting there, brother.
Sad, but true.
Oh, Christ. All right. This has been Podfluxxx.